Now, I just want to make one last point, which is that RFK Jr., who I had on my show when he was a candidate running for the Democratic primary, and whose health agenda I was largely supportive of, got into office, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and I was a strong advocate for his confirmation, and he had an agenda called Make America Healthy Again. And there was a long list of important and impressive but difficult achievements he hoped to accomplish. Things like combating chronic disease among Americans and child obesity, waging war on the regulatory capture by Big Pharma and Big Ag, forcing the removal of dangerous additives in the American food supply that don't exist anywhere else, re-examining and subjecting to much greater scrutiny certain medications that have been approved by a process that was sketchy because of the way in which the pharmaceutical company, Big Pharma, the whole agenda, encouraging more exercise, make America healthy again. Earlier today, here's what RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, posted, quote, "Anti-Semitism, like racism, is a spiritual and moral malady that's I'm sorry, this was not today. This was, I don't know if we have the date for this, but this was last month. This was one of the first things he tweeted as Health and Human Services Secretary. He said this, quote, "Anti-Semitism, like racism, is a spiritual and moral malady that sickens societies and kills people with lethalities comparable to history's most deadly plagues. In recent years, the censorship and false narratives of woke cancel culture have transformed our great universities into greenhouses for this deadly and virulent pestilence. Making America healthy means building communities of trust and mutual respect based on speech freedom and open debate." Such an Orwellian post, because the way the Trump administration is dealing with what they call anti-Semitism on college campuses, trying to eliminate bigotry as though that can be done just like Democrats tried to eliminate racism, and are doing so by forcing universities to implement much more rigid speech codes, much more expanded definitions of anti-Semitism that outlaw a whole variety of common critiques of Israel. For RFK Jr. to define that as an advancement of free speech and battling censorship on college campus when it actually is censorship on college campus was unbelievably ironic. But the fact that one of the first public announcements he made as Secretary of Health and Human Services had nothing to do with the Make America Healthy Again agenda that I just described spoke volumes. And then he went back to X earlier today to make an announcement, again, not about childhood obesity or chronic disease or Big Ag or Big Pharma, anything. This is what he said instead. Instead of inspiring universal condemnation, the October 7th Holocaust, he's called October 7th, the October 7th Holocaust. What's happening in Gaza is not a Holocaust. But what happened what in Gaza is not a Holocaust, but what happened on October 7th is, he says, instead of inspiring universal condemnation, the October 7th Holocaust triggered a global wave of anti-Semitism. Ivy League campuses became a greenhouse for poison. President Trump has ordered his cabinet to use every constitutional tool to uproot this divisive weed. I'm glad Columbia has agreed to this first step and will begin to restore itself as a garden of tolerance, reason, compassion, and respect. Now, again, one of the things Columbia was forced to agree to was to adopt a radically expanded definition of anti-Semitism, the kind that they already have adopted in the EU, that prevents you from saying Israel is a racist endeavor. You can say that about the United States or China or Peru or any other country in the world, just not about Israel. You're not allowed to observe that certain American Jews, like, say, Ben Shapiro or Barry Weiss, just to pick two random examples, seem to have greater loyalty to Israel than the United States. That's one of the things that's now barred as anti-Semitism to say. You're not allowed to criticize Israel in a way that suggests you're applying a double standard to it, meaning you criticize Israel but don't hold other countries to that too is anti-Semitism. You're not allowed to compare what the Israeli government is doing to the crimes of the Nazis, even though the whole purpose of the Nuremberg trials was to use that as a historical precedent to blow the whistle and to alert people to similar crimes. That is not allowed. You can say that about the United States. You can say the United States are acting like Nazis. You can say the Russians are. You can say the Ukrainians are. You can say the British are. Pick whatever country you want and say that about them. Feel free, have a party. Calling it racist, comparing it to not this one country. That you are not allowed to do. Because now the Trump administration is demanding the application of more rigid speech codes to protect a particular minority and to eliminate bigotry after mocking the left and Democrats and liberals for doing exactly that for every other single minority group for a full decade. But it just shows you the obsession of the U.S. government on this single foreign country. I mean, it's one thing for Marco Rubio to do it, or like Elise Stefanik to do it, or national security officials to do it. It's still kind of weird that they're so obsessed with Israel, but at least they're like talking about their actual jobs. RFK is the Health and Human Services Secretary. He excited so many people based on an agenda having to do with American health. And twice now, of the very few public pronouncements he's made, it's both been about anti-Semitism on college campuses, the need to curb it, and October 7th Holocaust. At some point, I mean, it's already happening, but at some point Americans are going to really start asking, why does Israel play such a vital central role? Why is the U.S. government constantly talking about it? Why is it sending billions of dollars a year to that foreign country? Why are they making special rules just for this one group of people and just of that foreign country? If you're worried about anti-Semitism, this is what's going to fuel it. Telling people that they're now outlawed from criticizing Israel, telling them that they're not allowed to talk about Israel, that everything they question or every criticism they raise is anti-Semitic, telling them they have to send billions and billions of dollars a year to Israel, even after the Trump administration and the MAHA movement was all about, let's stop giving our money to foreign countries and keep it here and spend it on our own country's welfare. At some point, that's going to be realized. It already is. The approval rating for Israel is the lowest point ever in the history of Gallup polling. We showed you that 2 weeks ago. And to watch even these kind of ancillary cabinet members in the Trump administration who have nothing to do with foreign policy continuously make pronouncements to serve Israel and show how concerned they are about it is just further fuel to the fire that's going to lead to people, rightfully so, asking why this foreign country has such a grave hold on our politics on a bipartisan basis. And why it is that even every day you turn the internet, you see them blowing up children, blowing up journalists, blowing up buildings, destroying all of society, occupying multiple countries, bombing multiple countries, all with American weapons and American money. Why it is that the United States is so blindly devoted to this foreign country, and why American politicians seem to have a much greater willingness to criticize our own government than this foreign government on the other side of the world. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.